Let's get into it. What's poppin', everybody? Welcome to the first official video on the Finessed by Alan YouTube channel. For those of you who are new, welcome. My name is Alan. I am a New York-based hair artist, aka Finessed by Alan on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And if you're not new, what's poppin'? Welcome back. I specialize in custom blonding, color, cuts, extensions, smoothing treatments, and so much more. And today, we are going over a sickening transformation on none other than one of my family members, my cousin. It has been a minute since her last trip to the salon, so we had our work cut out for us today. Now, before we get into the actual process, I really want to dive into what she wanted as a client coming in and what I also felt like needed to be done to achieve this look. Looking at her hair before we began anything, she has a lot of blonde on the ends and a really strong line of demarcation. Her natural level is like a 5, dare I say even a 6. And since she is so solid blonde on the bottom, I knew we really needed to go in and blend everything so cleanly to make sure that it blended really, really nicely and that you could not see that line anymore. Now, when she came in, I said, "Girl, what are we doing today?" And she told me that she wanted to be really, really blonde. She wanted to see less brunette in her hair. She wanted to feel brighter all over, but she didn't want to feel too blonde. And she also wanted to make sure that the tone of it was super natural as well. So she wasn't looking for no icy blonde. She wasn't looking for anything too crazy. She just wanted to look nice and sun-kissed and golden. Now, looking at her lifestyle, she does not live local, so she cannot get to the salon super often. So we needed to make sure everything that we did blended really nicely and gave her that longevity from the color. So I knew from the beginning I had to go in and tease a lot. We were going to do a heavy full head, and that is exactly what we did. So let's dive right into it. So starting this look right off, what I like to do is follow the hairline on the back to start this full head out. I am taking 2 foils on either side and making them teasy lights. What this is going to do is help make it super bold in the back when she puts her hair up, so that way she could feel super blonde when she puts her hair up. Now look at how I'm doing that foil. That is not a straight across line. I am making a nice peak formation on the top left, and I'm doing a little peak on the right just to kind of blend it in a little bit. Doing color and doing foils, highlights, balayage, or whatever you're doing in that moment is not a one size fits all. Yes, you could have certain methods that you could use on everybody, but you have to get a little bit creative with the process, and that is exactly what I started doing from the jump in this look. And after I was happy with it, folded it up. I know everybody likes to do their foils differently. I decided to do it this time. If you're mad, stay mad. This is just what I did. And then I followed the same pattern on the right side. Now doing a peak on the right and doing the little peak on the left. Nothing too crazy, just trying to give it a little bit more movement, be a little creative with the foils. Now immediately doing 2 V's in the back, you are left with a section in the middle. Now I am doing technically like a bricklay formation of these foils in the back. And the reason that I'm doing this is because she said from the beginning that she wanted to feel super blonde. If I left these pieces out, which you totally can, it would have maintained a lot of depth in the back in these sections. And since we are dealing with some super harsh demarcation lines, I really wanted to go in, add that extra blonde to make sure that everything blended. And also she wanted to feel super blonde, so I was going to do this anyway. Now don't clock me on this. I know I folded the left side and I went and did the 3rd section before I folded the right side, but don't you worry. I went back in because I'm a professional and I know what I'm doing for the most part. So before I went in and actually sectioned this piece out, I did fold it back up, whatever. And in the middle, I did another teasy light. We are building some super strong blonde in the back already. And as you can see, I didn't go as high up with this middle section. And the reason that I do this is because I watched a video about it like 10 years ago before I even started doing hair professionally. In theory, when the sun hits the hair and you have natural highlights that are not done by a stylist, there are certain spots in the head that don't have them because the sun just does not simply hit them. And one of those spots is directly at the root in the interior of the hair, and that's why I left out a little bit of root. And she also said that she didn't want it to the root anyway, so it was fine. Again, this is just how I'm doing it. If y'all want to do it a different way, do it a different way, but this is just how I did it. And then moving up the rest of the head, I follow that same pattern, the 2 foils on either side, and then 1 in the middle to overlap them all the way up the rest of the head. And eventually you will end up with 1 section on top that is narrow enough to fit into 1 foil, so you don't have to keep going side to side. And before I got to that point, I ended up intertwining some weaves in there. You could have done this whole look with teasy lights and it would have been gorgeous, stunning, but I went a different direction and it still ended up looking flawless and gorgeous. You'll see in a few, don't worry. But as we got up to the top, I ended up moving in a little bit more with just weaves, focusing on the line and blending everything. I really wanted to make sure that at this point we were giving her a ton of blonde. So even even though I ended up doing some weaves, I was taking some thicker weaves and I was leaving out thinner pieces of contrast. This way, we were giving her more blonde than leaving out brunette. And I took the lightener and I feathered it up. This way it was not one harsh line across. Again, blending purposes. We do not want to see no harsh lines, nothing of the sort. And then once the back of the head was finished, we moved on to the sides. Both sides I did the exact same way. Starting out with the hairline, I followed the same pattern that I did in the back. First foil on the hairline, tease the light, make sure that it's nice and blonde. This way when she puts it up, she's going to feel very, very bright. And directly after that first teasy light, we did a back-to-back foil with her. What this is going to do is give her an even bolder look right in the front, but it's going to start diffusing it back. This way it's like a pop, but then like we diffuse into more natural. If that makes sense, I don't really know. This is just my thought process while I'm doing hair. And with every foil, I am feathering the lightener down. This way it meets exactly where the two lines separate the color of her natural brunette to her pre-lightened already blonde. And then for the sides, I did diagonal backs as always, but mainly doing some weaves, maybe a few teasy lights in between just to like give her a little extra pop, but I didn't want her to feel too bright when she put her hair up. And once the sides were finished, we moved right on to the top. I followed the same pattern that I did on the sides and the back right along the hairline. I asked her about a money piece and she said, hell yeah, let's do it. And I said, great. Perfect. This is my favorite way to do a money piece. It is back-to-back foils right in the front along the hairline. And I like to do this instead of straight across. This way, no matter which way she throws her hair, it'll still look gorgeous. And when she puts her hair up, it's also a little bit more blended as well. And that is super important for this look. However, I am breaking my own rules. I know I said every single foil in this head needed to be blended, teased, but I am not blending or teasing this next foil. Call the hair police. It's happening. As you can see, I'm weaving that piece back to back, leaving no hair out. And I am brushing that lightener right up to the root. We are making sure this money piece is going to be very bright for her. This may have been the only section in the whole head that I did not tease. And something that I didn't mention yet, I always take the hair that is still dark and lighten it. Especially if it's not pre-colored already, you want everything to match up and you want everything to flow very well. Some people don't do this and that's their prerogative, but this is just how I choose to do hair. And this is just my sectioning, my approach. Everybody does things a different way. I found this method on Instagram and I do it differently than she did it. So play around with some of these techniques, figure out which one fits you best, and then go from there. The world is your oyster. But you could just keep it at one foil. You could just weave out the foils instead of doing teasy lights or slices or whatever. This is just how I did it, but figure out your flow with it and see what you want to do as you see fit. But moving right along, after doing this sectioning, you are met with kind of a V, like the peak of a triangle. So what I do is I kind of just like cut across it and just like do a thin foil in the front and then just work my way back. This way it's marrying the sections together, and again, if she throws her hair any which way, it's still going to make sense. Yes, I did vertical sections. I know everyone's doing horizontal sections right now. Sue me. I don't know what to tell you. And this is just what I chose to do in this look. If you wanted to do something like horizontal sectioning for these foils, you could have done the same thing and gotten a very similar result. This is just how I chose to do it. And I just worked my way up to that final foil, and oh my god, it is so satisfying to just watch the last foil. I'm watching what you guys are watching right now just so I could like figure out what I'm talking about. And, oh my god, it is so satisfying to watch. Now, when our clients are processing for like 45 minutes to an hour, they don't want to be dealing with hair in their face. So just move it over. Just like, it's not that hard. This way, it's not tickling their nose the entire time. They're going to be sneezing in your chair. Just makes the experience a little bit better. Now that all the foils are in, I always go in and just check the back. Make sure nothing's acting all types of crazy. Nothing's looking funky. And in this case, she is on the right track. Her lift is gorgeous and is setting us up for the perfect blonde. Now kind of figuring out where we landed with the tone. Her lift was like a perfect 9, maybe even dare I say a 10. It was like mostly a 9, but like a 10 in a few places, especially in the front. It was super bright. And I dried it up for her and I said, hey, is this too blonde for you? And she said, yeah, it's a little bit too blonde. And I said, no problem. We're going to tone it down. To me, it's very important to always communicate these things with clients to make sure that you and them are communicating and being on the same page. This way, when the look is done, you are both very happy with it. And you both know what to expect. And since, again, the entire theme of this look is to keep everything nice and blended and seamless, I decided to go in and do a little bit of a root tap. Maybe even borderlining root smudge, but like not that heavy. I decided to use Goldwell color-ons for this. For her roots, I did 7N and 7NA. I probably could have gotten away with a 7N, but it probably would have pulled too warm, so I decided to go in with an NA just to control some of that warmth. And then for the rest of her glaze, since she said that she was too bright but still wanted to be blonde, when a client says this, my mind immediately goes to a level 9. It's still bright, but it's a little bit more natural. Now, even though she said she wanted to keep it a little bit more golden, when a client says this, especially in the summer, I'll always say go a little bit more neutral, especially in the beginning, because it's going to oxidize so quick when you're in the sun. And everybody should be in the sun in the summer. Are you kidding? I'm not the stylist that's going to tell you stay out of the sun during the summer. Girl, I'm trying to catch a tan too. What do you mean? So I decided to go in with 9N, and I really wanted to do a 9BP, but somebody, not to name names, but Goldwell, does not make a 9BP in colorants. So I had to make it myself, no problem. And you know hairstylist math, 8 plus 10 equals 9. So now let's talk color theory real quick. The underlying pigment in hair naturally is warm. So for somebody that's a natural level 5, level 6, pretty much anywhere, you're going to be met with a lot of warmth that needs to be counteracted. Now, since we are aiming for like a level 9, level 10, the underlying pigment in that is going to be yellow. Maybe even like a little bit of orange, but like mainly yellow. So to counteract that, we're going to need a purple, maybe even like a purple blue base to neutralize it. And BP on the color wheel technically falls a little bit under the blue, but it's still pretty warm. It just kind of controls that warmth. You know what I mean? And I just went in and smudged it out a little bit. Anywhere that I felt could use a little bit more blending. Just doing my thing, painting it on, no biggie, until we get to the money piece. And this is where you really need to be careful. Yeah, I'm painting it on like regular degula around the head, but I am barely painting it on when I get to the money piece. I'm not even tapping. I'm basically just looking at the money piece with the brush in my hand and saying that's good enough. Because if that dark color gets on one of those bright pieces in the front, it's done. It's not coming out. And then I went in for her ends and I just tossed that bad boy all over. Way less pressure with this one. And I just brushed it through, make sure that that saturation is on point, okay? And I just did this all over, let her process for the full time to make sure that everything was nice and evenly deposited. And I always recommend doing a glaze for my highlight clients. This way it kind of seals everything back into the hair, closes up that cuticle, and makes it feel nice and shiny, because doing highlights can dry out and damage the hair a little bit, even if you're doing all the right steps. Because even though you're taking out color, you're also taking out protein. So we really need to make sure that we're taking care of the hair, and this is just one of the first steps in order to do that. Obviously aftercare and all of that too, but while she's in the chair, these are the things we can control. And after we rinsed her out, what I like to do with clients, especially if it's their first time, is I will dry a piece in the front so that way they could check the color and make sure that it's good, the tone is good, the level is good. This way, if anything needs to change, we could do so in that moment. And then if they give you the okay, then it's okay. And my cousin is no exception to that. So we blow dried a piece in the front, doing like a mini style on it, twisted it out, and then I parted it for her. This way she could see how it lays immediately. And obviously, as you could see, she said, "Oh my God, Alan, this is the best color I've ever gotten in my entire life. I cannot believe how gorgeous this color is. Oh my God, you slayed. I look snatched. This is gorgeous." I have no words. No words. Just kidding. I think she just said it's good, but that's what I heard. And since she said it was great, obviously the best color that she's ever gotten done in her entire life, she's never ever going to have color like this again because it's just so perfect and gorgeous and show-stopping and stunning. We went ahead and we blow dried it. And I threw in some curls for her. This way she got the full Finessed by Alan experience. And before I show you guys the final color, I really want to show you the before again. Look at her before and what we started with. And then look at her after. Like, are we kidding? Demarcation line, where? Harsh line, where? Grown out balayage, where? Brassy, where? Obviously, no tea, no shade. I am just really happy with how this look came out. Since blending was our #1 priority and making sure that she had a solid, good color for a little while was our priority, I think we totally nailed it. And I am just obsessed with this look. And oh my God, look at it from the sides. Oh my God, gorgeous. I am sick. But it is always a pleasure doing a transformation like this. I love seeing the before and afters. Even if they're not a family member, I just love to do it. And if y'all feel some type of way about this look, feel free to sound off in the comments. Y'all trying to talk some smack? I see you. And if there's anything you would like to see in the future as well, drop it down below. I would love to hear some feedback. But if you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe to my channel, like this video, ring the bell icon to make sure you stay up to date with all the things that I'm putting out, because I got even more transformations coming your way. And I think that's it. Thank you guys so much for checking this video out, and I hope to see you guys soon in the next ones. Peace out.